Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie. We have Lauren Fenrick, mining engineer from HVC. She's a Queen's grad, and Kuhn is a mining engineer, mining EIT from at Fording River. Actually, no, was at Fording River. Now he's at Elfie now. Line Creek. Line Creek. And just recently transitioned from Fording to Line Creek, and he's a UBC mining grad. So what we probably want to do is let's just introduce. So maybe Lauren, do you want to sort of introduce yourself and tell the students a little bit about what do you do at Tech?
Yeah. So as Masaki said, I'm Lauren. I graduated from Queen's. I've been working for Tech since 2016. I didn't come here straight after school. I came from working at a different company, but I started in the coal division at Cardinal River, and I was there for 3 years, and now I'm working at HVC. I moved about a year ago to HVC, and currently I'm working as a strategic planning engineer. So that's working on long-range planning, and so I take part in the mine design, long-term mine design, long-term mine scheduling, and I've been very involved in the economic financial evaluations for the mine site. So the biggest project we're working on right now is our HVC 2040 mine expansion. So we got a big presentation coming up on that this week that we're hoping to get it approved to go to the next stage. So that is a huge mine expansion for HVC. Currently, our mine life goes to 2027, but this would be expanding all of our pits, and the mine life would go to 2040 in the name HVC 2040. So tons of work going into that, lots of project development work, planning, mine scheduling, mine designs for the new pits, economic evaluations to make sure the project looks good. And then as well as that, I do our regular mine site life of mine and 5-year business planning. So that's just within our non-expanded mine life, looking at opportunities for optimization and scheduling within our current life. And then before coming into this job, I mentioned I was in coal. So I worked for Cardinal River, and I did 3 rotations there. I was an EIT. So I worked as coal quality, which is sort of the production geology side of the coal business, working with operations, making sure that the right coal is going to the plant. And then I did drill and blast. So that's drill and blast design, planning, working with operations again a lot to execute the plans. And then I did short range for a year. So that's the short range planner basically plans everything that's going on in the mine. You're the go-to person for what's happening on any given day. So that fast-paced, yeah. So here's some pictures. So coal quality, working with lots of different equipment to make sure the coal going to the plant is clean. Drill and blast, it's lots of fun, and short range planning, working with shovels, trucks, basically integrated with everything on the mine site to make sure it runs smoothly. So that's what I've been doing with Tech, lots of different opportunities.
Great, thanks, Lauren. One of the things I guess I forgot to mention at the beginning is we encourage questions from all of you. I guess some of you can't see the chat, which is fine. So if you can't access the meeting chat, then obviously we can't have you submit questions that way. But instead, you can raise your hand and ask questions at any point. Like I said, our goal today is to answer your questions and have you learn from our guests. So Kuhn, did you want to maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So like Misaki said, I graduated from UBC back in May of 2018. I did some co-ops in the oil sands before I joined Tech, but pretty much straight out of school in June after I graduated, I joined Tech at Fording River in the projects group. I did the projects role for almost 2.5 years there. A lot of my projects were essentially just, here's a budget, here's a problem, and then engage stakeholders to figure out a plan for fixing said problem. So there was a lot of working with different groups, a lot of scope development, sort of early stage of a project. And then if it's a smaller project, might direct award it to a contractor. Most of the projects were working with contractors, though some did involve working directly with operations instead. And then if it was a contractor job, it would either be directly awarded if it was small enough, or perhaps it'd be sent out for bid in your typical sort of RFP process. And then essentially after the bids are received, you would evaluate those, award the project, and then actually supervise the projects as well in the field. So it's a lot of working with safety, operations, different stakeholders, depending on where the project area is. And then just project tracking and making sure the contractors are working safely, working productively, that they're not hindering any other part of the mine, or that the mine isn't hindering their work. So just making sure that you're meshing well with the site. So as a project supervisor, you're kind of the person that's the point of contact for the contractors. At Fording, I had a pretty good range of experiences in terms of projects. So some photos that you see here on the left, that's an electromagnetic survey. We flew with a helicopter over our site to try and locate a bedrock surface underneath an old mining area. On the top right there, those are some old coal bed methane wells that were in our mine advance. At one point, we permitted a new mine expansion, which included an area where some old gas infrastructure was located that had been abandoned by the company that had owned it previously and went under. So part of our commitment of expanding our mine was to clean that up and sort of abandon those properly. So we brought in contractors to do that. And on the bottom right there, that's actually our South Tailings Pond, which was frozen at the time, as you can see. And we were doing a tailings characterization study, both geotechnical and environmental assessment of our tailings material in the South Tailings Pond at Fording River. You can actually see, fun fact there, that mountain in the left, that's the Castle Mountain. So that's one of the areas that Fording is looking to expand to, which is currently sort of in the works. Yeah, but I moved recently to Line Creek, where I'm the dispatch and engineering systems engineer, or EIT. I work with the dispatch team as a sort of subject matter expert on our dispatch software, which is Wenco, just maintaining that, troubleshooting it, and a few other sort of equipment technology upgrades like shovel payload and high precision GPSs and our different mobile computers that we use in our gear. So still kind of learning that role, but it's been fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Kuhn. I think, Misaki, you might be on mute again. It's a rough start today, I tell you. This coffee's not kicking in yet, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, maybe I'll let you take the lead.
Cool. Well, yeah, I have a few questions. If I don't think anything's popped up in the chat yet, and I hopefully, if anyone else has a question, by all means jump in. But I can keep this rolling as long as you need me to. But yeah, I guess
just popped in.
Okay, cool. I can't
For
see
Lauren, and let me just, yeah. So how is the expansion for AHS Phase 4 into the Valley Pit going from the strategic planning side of things? Very detailed.
No pressure. No pressure.
Well, yeah, that's what I've been working on a lot, actually. So it's a very specific question. This person probably worked at HPC. But yeah, so HPC was Teck's first site for the autonomous haulage pilot. So we currently have 12 autonomous trucks running in our Lornex pit, but the AHS Phase 4 expansion is to transition our entire Valley pit, which is our biggest pit, to autonomous haulage. So that's going to be happening in Q4 of this year. We're retrofitting our conventional trucks right now to have autonomous haulage kits on them. So we're building those up this year so we can increase our fleet. And then, yeah, we run with 20 autonomous trucks in Valley in Q4. And then by 2023, where the HPC site is fully autonomous with a fleet of 35 autonomous trucks. So it's pretty cool stuff happening. It's happening in real life, and things are actually transitioning to autonomous at HPC, and that's a big part of our mine expansion too, is that everything will be fully autonomous. So that helps a lot with the economics and safety and design aspects of long-term mine planning.
Great. Looks like we have another question from this one's from Isidore. How are mining engineers involved with the Race 21 projects? I saw that all Race 21 positions required computer science degrees only. Are there chances for mining engineers to work on the technology slash programming projects? I can talk on this one a little bit.
I can too, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll talk a little bit about. I guess we can talk about Jose and we can talk about Ashish, I guess. So we have some mining engineers. So one of our co-op students last year, he was one of the first co-op students to work in Race. He's a mining engineering student who worked at HVC. He's now been hired full-time. And in his role was business intelligence role, I believe. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was trying to get him on this call to be able to talk about his experience, but he's busy. He's got another call. So, but yeah, so we do have roles for mining engineers, and now we have, Varun was another one we hired last year, business intelligence. So I think so far the mining engineering positions within Race have been on the business intelligence side, and we have 2 co-op students now working in there. But then again, also our leaders, the leader of our transformation, Greg Brower, is a UBC alumnus with a long history of different kind of mining roles at Teck. So I guess my advice for students who are interested in potentially working in Race 21 is my personal view is it's good to sort of cut your teeth in the mine and sort of really sort of get a sense of how what mining's like, what our pits are like, and on the operations side, and then taking that and having that sort of foundational knowledge and being able to contribute to our technology, our transformation vision. But at the end of the day, Race works with our engineers in all different departments. I don't know if Lauren or Kuhn, you worked with them or not in terms of any projects.
I work with Race 21 a lot. So Race 21 has projects and initiatives, but then we need to make it applicable to each site. So a big part of my job is taking those projects and understanding how they would fit into the HPC specific mine plan, what potential value there is to add, and then integrating it into our mine plans once it becomes a set project. Like autonomous haulage started as Race 21, and now it's embedded in our HPC mine plan. And there's a whole team of autonomous people that are all mining engineers that work at HVC. So there's not a shortage of technology opportunities for mining engineers.
Great.
To add to what Lauren and Misaki said as well, we had 2 or 3 mining engineering folks at Fording move into Race 21. Kind of exactly like Misaki said, they kind of got some experience in the mine first and then shifted to that team later on. And I myself, I work with Race 21 quite a bit on the payload systems here at Mine Creek. So
that's great. I thought they were more separate. It's good they're together.
Yeah, and I think when I think about it, there's a lot of mining engineers in Race right now, whether it's like Mobile Bay and there's Aaron Wiley, like just all over different parts. We're using our mining engineers to lead a lot of our technology projects, and then we're supplementing that with data scientists and programmers.
Yeah, and just to add that too, we're seeing a lot more co-op positions actually that are going to be supporting those technology rollouts at the site too. So I know I have an upcoming term, I have at least one that's going to be based at Fording River, and it's sort of helping with some piloting some of the Race 21 projects up there. And then Race is definitely at the Race office itself. They're looking at hiring some mining engineers for the upcoming term as well, to support some of to have some more, I guess, subject matter experts or more mining engineers to work with some of the computer engineers. So there's some cool opportunities coming up for students as well.
Yeah, maybe just to add on this, obviously there's interest in this area, and one of the things I sort of been telling students for the last year has been this: what I recommend students to do is position yourselves to be to be more competitive than your peers. And one of the ways you can do it, like the people on the call, they're all mining engineers, and you have this foundation in mining. But we've sort of told you what the future of mining is in terms of technology and data science and AI and all that. And as a company, Teck, we have a ton of mining engineers and mechanical engineers, and you name it, who got a wealth of knowledge and experience. The one thing that a lot of them aren't as familiar with or comfortable with is the data science side. It's the AI side and the machine learning and all that. So if we have a new graduate who in school has played around with, is participating in hackathons, played around with data, comfortable with it's just those Python and what that student now, or that new graduate, has done is positioned him or herself to be in a competitive position, and potentially could partner with one of our very experienced mining engineers and provide significant value. Right, and together now they're very, very powerful in terms of what they can do, and the the whatever the cost savings and I guess what they can achieve is limitless.
Yep. And we have another question here, Masaki, too. And this before, I don't know who wants to start. Maybe Kuhn, if you want to start. What was the biggest challenge you faced as an EIT or co-op student transitioning from school to the work environment?
I think for myself, it was mostly just a learning curve directly related to the role I was stepping into. There's obviously a great team there for the most part to help you out and show you the way, but yeah, kind of finding your sea legs, if it were, to step into your role and really start being a sort of productive member of the team. But as far as moving into the area itself, I mean, Bernie was great, so that was easy.
Yeah. We might be a bit biased, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that, something that I get a lot of questions about when I interview students is there, similar to what Masaki had sort of mentioned too, but is thinking about the co-op students you've seen come through so far, and that could go to both of you, but is there any sort of skill sets or experience that students can get to coming into a co-op term, like to prepare them? Or is there any sort of, skill sets that they should have coming into a co-op term?
So is that aimed at Masaki or myself?
Oh, sorry, at you. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, software is always a nice one. If you have some sort of foundational knowledge of typical mine planning softwares like MineSight or Vulkan or whatever, they're all fairly transferable. Once you know one, it helps learning. Those certainly can't hurt. Yeah, I mean, that's usually a good start, is if you can avoid that learning curve, that can help you kind of step more into the role itself and less so the technical side of it.
Okay. Yeah, great. Lauren, do you have anything to add to that from the previous question and then the next one?
As far as challenges, well, when I started with Teck, I was coming from working in the oil sands, so I'd already been working for a couple of years. But from going to school to a work environment, I'd echo what Kuhn said. There is a learning curve, and don't have too much ego. You're going to learn a lot. Like, don't come in expecting to know everything. You don't know anything, so be willing to learn from anybody. And I would say the same for what a co-op student can bring. The most effective co-op students that I've worked with are ones that have a great attitude and are willing to help out with anything. It doesn't matter if you have experience in survey or Excel, or, well, it's good to have Excel experience, but even if you don't necessarily know how drill and blast works, but you're the drill and blast co-op, if you have a good attitude, you're willing to learn, you're willing to help out with whatever we give you, you're going to do well. No matter how much experience you have. If you come in thinking you're going to do one specific thing and you get thrown a different task and that throws you, and then you're upset because you got a different task than what you expected, that's going to be a bit more challenging to work with that co-op.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thanks. And I think we have a co-op on the line. Nurlan, are you still here? I know you had some trouble joining. Nurlan's on the line. He was a co-op student at Fording River he just left in August, and I sort of put him on the spot to see if he wanted to chat a little bit about his experience, because I think sometimes it's nice to hear it from a fellow student as well, because we can probably talk about till we're blue in the face. But Nurlan, are you here?
I see Amir's on the line. He was my co-op student at HBC.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Just gonna call him out.
Amir, we'll put you on the spot.
He's got his hand up.
I could just add to the same thing Lauren was saying, that the attitude is very important. I remember when I was at HBC, there was some challenging stuff being worked on that not always I had the knowledge about, but just my attitude being positive and ready to learn was what really helped me, and I was able to push through that term.
And what kind of cool projects did you get to work on, Amir? What was your main responsibilities there?
Well, I was a strategic planning co-op, so I worked on the Life of Mine report and the 5-year business plan. So I got to work with different engineers, specifically Lauren, the autonomous haulage specialist that was in strategic planning, and to sort of learn about the backstory with all the different initiatives going on so that I could put it on paper in a report format and get it out there in a concise way.
Cool. So you'd be excited to see how the Lauren's presentation goes this week, I bet.
So what was the highlight of your work term?
I actually did 2 work terms, one at Fording River and one at HBC. And the highlight at the Fording River one was being outside a lot and working with near the, all the new technologies with the big trucks and the big shovels, and actually being able to go on them and see how operators interact with them. And at HBC was the highlight was being able to sort of get an idea that all the different departments have to come together to produce the overall goal of the mine site, and how all the little bits work together to sort of figure out your end goals.
Perfect. Thanks, Amir. Let me see here. Should we? So it's great. We've sort of talked about what the highlights for Amir. How about for Lauren? What's sort of what are the highlights of what keeps you at Teck?
So I kind of went through it in just my introduction, but Teck has given me a ton of different opportunities, and they really value their employees. So if you have a desire to do something or go somewhere, they will help you out and get you there. I worked in coal, but I knew I wanted to come and try copper and move to Kamloops, and they made that happen for me. So after 3 years in coal, I was able to transfer to HVC. And just the variety of work that I've gotten at my time at Teck has been such a great learning experience. When I was at Cardinal, it was really operations focused. I was on the short range team, and that experience is so important as a foundation as a mining engineer, understanding how a mine works, how the groups work together, like what's happening on a day-to-day basis and the struggles and things that are going on in the mine that you wouldn't understand if you weren't actually in that role. And then being able to bring that foundation to the role I'm in now in strategic planning, which is more of a big picture kind of role, as Amir said, getting everything from the mine site working together to come up with a final overarching life of mine plan or mine expansion plan, and understanding what you can and can't do when you're looking from a long-term perspective. And then being able to see the finances too. So I'm doing all the economic evaluation for our life of mine, which is a really interesting experience that I haven't had in previous roles. So just Teck has been great of giving me different opportunities. And then even outside of work, you get to live in the most awesome places. So Cardinal River is in Hinton, which is right outside of Jasper Park. So my husband and I moved there and did tons of hiking, lots of outdoor stuff. And then moving to Kamloops, it's nice here. It's a little bit warmer than Northern Alberta, and there's tons of activities here too. It's a little bit bigger of a city, which is nice to be able to live in and work at a mine. And I just love the climate and the area of interior BC. So Teck just has lots of great opportunities no matter what you want to do.
Great, thanks, Lauren. We've got a question from Angus. I'm not sure who, if it's for Kuhn or for Lauren can answer this one, but sustainability is obviously a huge part of the future of our industry. How have you seen co-op students be able to gain experience in pushing sustainable innovation in practice if interest is shown? I don't know if either of you can tackle this, otherwise maybe it's a Stacy question.
I can take a swing at it if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So a lot of the projects that we worked on at Fording River were sort of environment based. Every year, maybe like 60 to 75% of our budget went to water management construction. So a lot of it was around like building clean water diversions, managing the water that enters our pit and making sure that it's properly taken care of and routed to the appropriate places. We worked with the environment teams extensively in setting up our projects, so making sure that before we go in and disturb sort of area that we're doing that properly. So getting the different surveys, like just to name a few, like badger surveys, herpetal surveys, if there are any animals that were either respecting their sort of nesting windows and staying outside of those areas until they're done, or possibly relocating some animals if that's a possibility, or just working around where they are. So it's, for my position so far, it hasn't been very direct, but it's a huge component of what you do, sort of no matter what you're doing. So in that way, I've been involved.
Anything to add there, Lauren?
I guess if sustainable innovation is something you're really interested in, you can make that known to your supervisor in your co-op, and they'll try to get you involved in whatever. But in strategic planning, I know I worked with Amir on when we did our 5-year business plan. Part of it was going to the different departments across site and communicating what our mine plan was to like the tailings and water and environment and communities departments, so they can understand what's happening in the mine plan, and then we can work together to come up with major milestones over the next 5 years of what sort of sustainable development needs to look like. So in what I've worked on at HVC, we've always been involved in it, but I think speak up about what you're interested in, and then your co-op supervisor would try and get you involved in it as much as possible.
Perfect. Well, we've got a couple more minutes before we start the trivia. If there's any more questions, feel free to fire away. In the meantime, maybe we'll go to the Kuhn with the question I asked Lauren, and that is, what do you enjoy about working at Teck?
Yeah, so a lot of it is kind of similar to what Lauren said, is the opportunity to kind of shift around and try different roles and different experiences. My first rotation in projects, because each project kind of has different stakeholders, gave me a lot of opportunities to work with different groups and kind of get involved with everybody's work around the mine, it felt like. So that was really enjoyable. And then sort of when the time came for a new position, having that opportunity to move sites. So that's one kind of nice thing about working in coal specifically, is that there are so many sites so closely packed together. So if you do want to kind of try something new, you can do that without having to fully sort of uproot yourself. Though if that's what you're aiming for, obviously, as Lauren has demonstrated, that's a possibility too. My supervisor actually went down and worked in South America for, I think it was a 16-month stint. So there's lots of opportunities to rotate around and try different things. And on the personal side, I mean, I'm kind of biased, like Stacy said. Fernie's pretty sweet. Get a season's pass every year and ski a lot, and recently got into mountain biking and hiking and all that stuff. There's lots of outdoor stuff to do here, and communities are just great. So yeah, definitely not planning on going anywhere.
Just said that both of you have mentioned learning on the job is a big part of your experiences transitioning into junior engineering roles. They're curious what the learning process is like when you're on the job and what developing new skill sets looks like in an active engineering role. So I guess like professional development, that sort of thing while you're on the job. Maybe Lauren, do you want to start? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Learning on the job can be different things. So it'll be different for whatever role you're in. But I would say the biggest part is working with different people, having good communication skills, and leaning on your coworkers or people in different departments to know what you need to know. So like for instance, if you're starting in kind of a more site operations based role, you want to be tight with the operations crew because they know what's going on and they're going to teach you what's happening on the ground, and they're going to be the biggest help for you learning how to do your job. And then also Teck provides like software training, skills training for specific engineering related skills that you need to know. Like we switched to using Vulkan, and we had a week-long training session on Vulkan or different scheduling softwares. You can do training on that. And then Teck also has general leadership type training leading for the future. So that would be kind of learning more soft skills, working with different professionals across site, learning that kind of thing. But I'd say the biggest, like when you're starting as a junior engineer, getting to know operations is going to be the best way to learn how a mine operates.
Kuhn, do you have anything to add to that, or anything else that you've seen?
No, not really. I mean, I would just echo the sort of the knowing that you don't know all that much and being eager to learn. Definitely the co-ops that, or the EITs too, that show up, sort of not afraid to ask what may seem like a silly question just all the time, and asking people for help rather than just sort of thinking they know what's going on. They usually go the furthest, and people are most happy to hand them work to help them out because they know, they'll ask if they need help.
Yeah, awesome. That's great.
All right, we got a bunch of questions now in the chat. I'll jump. The next one is from Patrick. If students express interest in joining the site's mine rescue team, are students allowed to join/practice with the mine rescue team? Lauren or Kuhn?
I can kind of jump in real quick. I don't think they can be practicing members, but a lot of our co-op students did volunteer to be like subjects for the different practices that the mine rescue group does. So you can get involved that way. But I think even like staff, they typically don't let them onto mine rescue teams just because you're not on the same shift as all the people that are working. So it's usually shift-based folks that are on the mine rescue teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense.
And then Kuhn, while we've got you here, Kuhn, how about Big Bang Bagels? Someone's asked what are your thoughts on Big Bang Bagels?
Big fan.
My personal favorite as well.
Yeah, delicious bagels. If you're in Fernie, go get them.
He has a side hustle of marketing for Big Bang Bagels.
Not sponsored. Maybe I will be after this.
There you go.
It's a question for Lauren here. I'm wondering if you could tell me a bit more about working as a long-range planner and some of the challenges that were associated with the position.
Yeah. So working as a long-range planner, you are dealing with a lot of uncertainty. That's probably one of the bigger challenges. I'm trying to forecast 30 years in the future, and you don't exactly know what the world conditions are going to be like at that time. So you develop assumptions and trends and looking at historics and future projections, and do the best you can to estimate what we're going to be doing in the next few years. But definitely it's a challenge to have an accurate plan that far in the future. I think you kind of have to go into that role knowing that, like, I made a plan that goes to 2027. Come 2027, I'm sure we're not going to be doing exactly what my plan says. And don't get too caught up on that. You're just trying to give your best estimation of what the future looks like by going off all the best data you have. But I'd say that's one of the bigger challenges. And then trying to tie it in, because we've developed a long range plan, and then mid range takes it and develops like year budget based off it, and then short range will take that and develop a week to month plan. So making sure that we're not too aggressive in the long range plan, that when they take it into mid and short range, that it's not achievable. So that's part of why having the foundation of working in a more short range operations role is important in long range, so that you understand the limitations of your mine plan and how it can transfer into like actually being executed
around it. But I'm currently recruiting for the upcoming January term for co-op students. So there's a posting actually on our website right now. So you could go to teck.com/campus, and you'll be able to see any postings we have up right now. So like I mentioned earlier, we have about 7 positions we're going to be hiring mining engineers for, and they're a combination of short range, working with a little bit more of a technology piece, some in business planning as well. So we've got quite a variety coming up from the coal division for the upcoming term. And then again, we recruit every 4 months. So for May, you'll see our postings up in January, and then likewise for September, you'll see them up in May. So it's a pretty robust co-op program that we have at Teck. So certainly it's a great way to get your foot in the door for future opportunities. Yeah, this page here is just talking a little bit about some quotes from some students that we had recently that just finished this past August in the mining engineering roles for co-op, and it talks a little bit about their experiences and what they liked about working with Teck. So again, like I sort of joked about earlier, we can talk about till we're blue in the face, but certainly coming from other students, that speaks a lot, I think, to what the kind of experience they get to do here. Common themes you often see are things like, I can't believe how much responsibility I was given as a co-op with Teck. I think I see that quote literally on every evaluation that we do with our students when they leave here. So we throw you in, you're doing EIT level projects and working side by side with EITs. And so you get lots of responsibility and you get to live in some pretty cool places, which is also makes it pretty fun. There's a huge network of students that work here. So that's a little bit on the co-op side of things. I'm currently doing interviews for mining engineers right now. So just so over the next few weeks, you'll see me. If you have applied, we'll be setting up interviews over the next few weeks. For EIT, I know there's a question here, and I know Aditya had worked here before, and he'd asked a little bit about full-time openings for new grads starting in January. So for our EIT recruitment, we kind of do it as an ongoing, as needed basis. We don't have like 2 times a year that we would recruit for EITs, and I think Lauren and Kuhn can both speak to this. They've been through the recruitment process with me probably through the EIT roles, and yeah, so it's kind of ongoing as needed. So as a project gets approved, or as we get budget, or as we have an opening come up, then we'll post it. So you'll see it throughout the year. So I guess my best advice for someone looking for an EIT role is to keep an eye on the website. You can set yourself up for job alerts on our website for anything that's mining related, but I would still keep an eye on it, because some of our positions might not be named mining EIT. It might be, maybe you go into technical marketing or business planning. So there's a few other roles that would hire EITs from the mining side of things, but may not be named your traditional mining EIT role as a job title kind of thing.
All right, there's a question for Lauren next. What sort of work goes into preparing the proposal for the 2040 mine life? And some additional comments there for you.
Yes, Nawung and Luis are still here. But yeah, so for the 2040 mine plan, there's a team. There's like 3 people on my team that we're all working on it together. So I'm doing a lot of more of the economic side. My coworker Tim's doing the mine planning, and then Nick is doing the metallurgy planning. So developing, I guess it starts with, we have our models of what the deposits look like, and then we run algorithms on it to figure out what is the most economic pit. So that's like what Whittle would do. That's what we use it for. And then developing a mine design that would generate the most NPV. We're trying to make the best project possible. So we've worked on lots of different designs and put a bunch together and evaluated them against each other to figure out what's the best option. So we came up with a version where we do 2 pushbacks in the valley pit instead of just 1 big pushback, so that you can get that pit bottom ore sooner, and then you can defer some stripping into the second pushback. So that's one of the big changes we've done to drive value this year. And once we have kind of a mine design set, you put it in a mine scheduler, and that figures out how much you can mine per year, what's going to the mill per year, all of the equipment you need. And we've developed an economic model, which basically figures out from that mine schedule what your operating costs, capital costs, et cetera, are going to be every year. And then a metallurgy model. So that's like your recovery and throughput in the mill, figuring how many tons we can put through the mill and what kind of copper and moly you're going to be able to extract from that. So then with the 2040 project, we have a bunch of mill upgrades that part of it. So we're capturing the capital with those projects and the associated benefits in the mill. So you get better recovery by installing different parts in the mill. So then that gets built into the models, and then you got to make sure that they pay themselves off. You're spending X much capital. You need to make sure you're generating enough revenue from the extra recovery to pay for that capital. So lots of evaluations of different things of, is it worth it to do? Is it not worth it to do? What's the best pit? What's the best schedule? What's our cutoff grade should we do to make the most money? So it's a lot of work. Basically, we've been working on it for the team I've been on. We've done staged updates. So we're currently in feasibility stage, but this 2040 project has been ongoing for a few years. You can imagine with the amount of work and models that goes into it. But yeah, so it's kind of all coming together this week, and we're doing a big presentation to like the VPs and the board on Friday with the current status of the project, and hopefully it looks good. I haven't put together the final economics on it yet, which I'll be doing after this, but yeah, lots of work. There's a team doing it. It's a really big part of the job that we're doing right now, and super important for HVC because 2027 isn't that far from now, but 2040 would be a really good project for the site.
And no pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot going into it, but there's a whole project team because we're just working on the mine plan, but then all that stuff that I mentioned with the mill upgrades and everything, there's like an actual dedicated project team to figuring out like what the mill design would look like, how much every little thing is going to cost, which I am not that involved in, but I get the costs and kind of the initiatives that it'll improve from them. But yeah, so lots of moving parts working together, and then kind of the role of my team is to take all those moving parts and put it into one plan and one presentation that says this is what it is.
Well, for the students still on the call, opportunity sort of to ask questions. We still have Kuhn and Lauren available for any specific mining questions. You can also put your hand up if you can't access the meeting chat.
Lauren, Kuhn, how are you guys doing for time? Are you good for a couple more minutes, or if you have to drop off, Misaki and I can handle?
It's
I
true.
have a call at 10:15, so I'm good until then.
Okay.
I should be fine to stick around for a bit.
Okay. Thanks, guys. But as if anyone has a question.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
All right.
Justin.
Looks like Justin. Go ahead.
Hi there. Sort of just as a follow-up to my long-range planning question, Lauren, you mentioned that part of the EIT training, you also did short-range planning. I'm just wondering about your experience on that.
Yeah, I love short-range planning. It's definitely different than long-range planning. Like long-range, you're kind of working on the same project for a few months or years, depending on what it is, and it's like long-term forecasting. But short-range, it's go, day to day, like really fast-paced, working with operations, and it is really fun. The coolest thing about short-range planning is you make a plan on Monday, and then you see it being executed on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and like you're working with ops every day. You're the first person they call to say, should we move the shovel here? What happens? This shovel went down, this drill went down. What's the priority? So you are kind of like the go-to person on the engineering department for running the mine, essentially, like your ops right-hand man, and it's so much fun. It's different than long range,
super
but
exciting for sure.
It's really cool. I would recommend everybody to do a stint in short range.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome. I think there's another question here from Aditya. Do you want to turn your mic on?
Hi, Lauren.
How are you?
Hi. I had a quick question to Lauren regarding the long-range position, long-range job she's working on right now. So I was curious for the HVC long-range plan. Are you at all considering transitioning to underground from open pit at some point?
HVC, like we have done some exploration deeper, but the grades at HVC are not high enough to support underground mining. So really the way HVC makes their money is high tonnage, low grade, but efficient production. So we have large equipment fleet, large mill, a lot of stripping, low grade, but we're able to make money on those margins. So it's not really an applicable deposit for underground, but there have been holes drilled deep to see what's down there.
Quickly, another question. Will we be sending any reps to Canadian Mining Games this year? That's a great question. We've sort of just scratched the surface on that. Stacey, you want to cover that?
Yeah, well, we've heard from the mining games. I think they're going to actually move to a virtual platform for the upcoming games, which was meant to be in Montreal. So the last I've heard anyway is that it's going to be likely a virtual event. And yeah, we'll definitely be participating. I'm not sure what it's going to look like yet. I haven't had the whole format sorted out yet, but yeah, we'll be there and we will definitely be present and helping out with the games. We're big supporters.